大家好，欢迎收看本周的对话华尔街。欧债危机在近期又有了新的进展，希腊政府各个党派之间达成了共识，将会进一步推行新的财政紧缩方案。而欧洲央行呢，在周四保持1%的利率不变的情况下，将不要求希腊政府对其债券进行票面价值的偿付。而同时，欧洲央行会继续延长其再融资计划，给欧洲的各大银行继续提供廉价的流动性。但根本问题呢，仍然是希腊政府没有和其债权人达成债务重组的协议。尽管有各方的让步和支持，但希腊债务违约的风险仍然没有完全的消除。长时间以来，财政紧缩和财政体的整合似乎成了解决主权债危机的主旋律。但这些方法真的能够从根本上解决问题吗？本周我们专访了德国裔的美女经济学家、著名的经济学家末日博士卢比尼的经济战略部门主管 BeyondGlobal 公司 CEO Sandra Navidi 女士。Sandra, it really has been a while. Glad to have you here back to our show.
Thank you, Eric.
Okay, let me kick off with this. The news just came out this morning that the Greek parties have reached some sort of agreement to carry out a more austerity plan, but still they don't have anything substantially with their private bondholders. So, given the current circumstance, how big the chance do you think Greece will still eventually go fall to default?
Well, I think this whole situation has become as complicated as three-dimensional chess, and it's very hard to assess any future developments or consequences. What can be said, though, at this point is that we already have a de facto default of Greece. It can't pay back its debt. Now, the only question is, can we, or how long can we maintain or prevent a legal default? If all the creditors agree to a default, then it doesn't have to be declared a default. Therefore, the chances of a disorderly default and contagion can be contained. That is the question right now. To answer it, the outlook is kind of choppy. I can tell you because I've had discussions with German policy leaders, and they're very much set on supporting Greece, no matter what it costs, but keeping it within the currency union and not letting it go bust. Because also, what has to be said is there is no mechanism to expel anybody from the currency union, even if you wanted to. The only way you could do it is if everybody else left and started a new currency. So it's a problem. But another problem is that the Greek economy is totally non-existent. It has collapsed already.
Yeah.
So that's a problem that we will have to deal with.
It seems the ECB and you mentioned the German officials, they want to back up Greece and they're doing some compromise and they trying different measures to help that. So how big the effect do you evaluate those measures?
Well, I think the ECB has been very helpful, especially in its last measure, to prevent a liquidity crisis, to support banks, and I think that was very effective. However, the ECB's function is limited. One cannot overestimate how much it can do. It's not its task, and it cannot solve the crisis. The policymakers cannot hand over, the problems to the ECB. I think so far it's been very supportive, but also with regard to the Greek bonds, it's a very fine line that it's walking, and it may set a precedent that may create future problems down the road.
Okay, another issue is the major resolution for all this debt crisis has been the government fiscal tightening. But from the painfully learned Japanese experience, if we look back maybe 10 or 20 years ago, the last decade in Japan showed that austerity doesn't help with the reduced national debt, neither the economic growth. Their debt swelled to 200% of their GDP right now, while during the period they're cutting back government spendings. So how do you think about austerities now carrying out in all these peripheral countries? Will that really help, really solve the problem?
No, it is a problem. Unquestionably, debts have to be reduced. There has to be a certain degree of deleveraging. We can't carry on as we have in the past. At the same time, though, we cannot pay back the debts without growth. And austerity stifles growth. It's a problem that we're seeing in Greece very obviously, but it's a problem that we must not underestimate with regard to other countries either, such as Spain. They may see a balance sheet recession if the private sector as well as the public sector both go into deleveraging mode. It'll stifle growth and they will basically save themselves to death.
Okay. Some experts argue that the worst time of the European debt crisis already passed.